how would you go about finding the area of this particular figure? Wilson. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so then I have a rectangle, and to find the area of the rectangle, it's going to be 6 times 4 base times height, which is 24. And then I'm going to find the area of a triangle, and the dimensions of the triangle are 4 by 4 divided by 2, which is going to give you 8. So then the area of my figure is 24 plus 8, which is 32 square yards. 32 square yards. But, yes, Sam? You have another way of doing it? Great. All right, let's look at the other way of doing it. I'm going to erase this for a second. Is that all right? I have that. I had a feeling it would erase that 10, but that's okay. Okay, Sam, what's your method of solving it? Oh, just a minute. I best write that down here somewhere. 10 plus 6? Okay. Times 4 divided by 2. Does that make sense to anybody? So you're telling me what? You said it's base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. That is a formula for the area of a trapezoid. What is a trapezoid again? What is a trapezoid? A trapezoid says you have 2 parallel sides, not 2 pairs of parallel sides. You just have 2 parallel sides. Those 2 sides are parallel to each other. It's a trapezoid, and here's a formula. There's a formula for area of a trapezoid. If you do not have that down on your note cards, I would write it down. Remember, one thing you need to do when I talked about being yesterday, when I talked about your map testing, and I said something about whether it meant that you were on track for ACT testing, I will tell you this much. When you take your ACT test, it's a time test. You have 60 problems, Dawson, and you have 60 minutes to do it in. 60 problems in 60 minutes, which means how long should it take you per problem? 1 minute. 1 minute per problem. That's the time frame I've been giving you so far to find the areas of some of these figures. What's going to help make some of those problems quicker is if you get to a simple formula here where you don't have to break something down and find out that the base of that triangle was 4, something like that. So when we use this particular formula here for area of a trapezoid, base 1 and base 2. Let me use a highlighter maybe. If we look at the bases, it's base 1 plus base 2. Here's your bases. Your bases are your parallel sides that you have. So I'm going to add those 2 together, which is what Sam told us. Your height, the height is going to be a perpendicular distance. Now the perpendicular distance happens to be one of the sides here, even though that's not marked as a right angle right there. I apologize for that. But your height is that perpendicular distance. So I'm going to add these 2 together. So if we go back over here to Sam's calculation, orders of operations, I need to work with parentheses first. What is 10 plus 6? 16. So I'm going to take 16 times 4 and I'm going to divide by 2. I can reduce. 2 goes into 16 how many times? 8. What What is 8 times 4? 32. Is that what Wilson got for an answer? Yeah, it's the same answer. Now, this is where reducing before you multiply is going to be easier because everybody should know what 8 times 4 is. But if I had to take 16 times 4, and then divide that by 2, it might not be as easy of a calculation. Or I'm not going to say it's not going to be as easy, but it might take you a little more time. It might take you a little more time. Now let's look here. I want to back up and I want to add a slide. Do you know where that formula for area of a trapezoid comes from? Why can I use that formula for area of a trapezoid? It's because if I look at this particular figure, remember here's base 1, here's base 2, and here's the height. What happens if I split that figure into 2 triangles? How do I find the area of this triangle right up here? Base 1 times the height, divide by 2. It's a triangle. How do I find the area of this triangle down here? Base times height divided by 2. What is the height of that particular triangle, which is right here? That height is the same as the height over here, right? So to find the area of the blue triangle, I'm going to take my base, which is B2 now, times the height and divide by 2. Both of them have a height and a divide by 2. If I take that out of both spots, you are left with base 1 plus base 2. That's a factoring issue that you may not know completely how to do yet, how to factor that out. But that's how you get to the formulas. You're finding the area of 2 triangles when you use the sum of the bases times the height divided by 2. Base 1 plus base 2 divided by, or times the height divided by 2. So that's where that's coming from. We'll look at some more examples here in a little bit. But before we do that, let's get to what is the area of a circle. You are going to get 30 seconds with a partner to find the area of a circle. So Sam, what's the area for a circle? The formula for area of a circle, that was a weird question. What is the area of a circle? The formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. I would write that down if you get it confused. Here's something that I use to help remember, is that what happens when you find area, what happens to the units? When you write your answer for an area problem, what are your units? You have to square your units. So the units are squared for area, and here you have a radius squared. So that should lead you, oh, I'm squaring something, that's area. When you square something, that's area. Your unit should be squared. Otherwise, don't get it confused with circumference. Circumference is the distance around. Put your finger on the jar. Circumference is 2 pi r. But if you take 2 times the radius, if you multiply 2 times the radius times pi, because you can do that. That's that commutative property of multiplication, saying you can multiply them in any order. What is 2 times the radius? That's diameter. So you could say that circumference is also pi times diameter. But don't get it confused with the area. Area is pi r squared. And that's what we need to look at. What happens if you have a half a circle? Then what do you have to do if you have a semicircle? Divide by 2. We need to divide it by 2. So if I told you a problem like this, there's no figure, you might have to draw the figure. The radius of a circle is 3 centimeters. Find the area of the circle. Well, visuals help some people. So if I can get a picture, the radius is what? The radius is 3 centimeters. There's a figure right there. They're asking you to find the area of the circle. First thing I would do is I would write down the formula, because that's going to get you some points on the test. Because if you don't know, okay, I have a question for you. What is 3 squared? 9. A couple of you probably wanted to say 6 because I see that sometimes. So you have the correct formula. Dawson, stay with me. You have the correct formula, but you didn't know how to take 3 and square it. You said 3 squared was 6 instead of 9. You get points if you can at least tell me the correct formula. So the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. Now you can go ahead and substitute in your radius is 3 and you square it. 3 squared means 3 times 3. Some of you, it may help if you just go ahead and write it out this way. 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. You told me that. 9 pi. Do I have to calculate that? No, that's an exact answer. Mathematicians like an exact answer. They don't want you to have to take 3.14 times 9 because that is just an approximation. And it doesn't give you the exact answer. Whoops. That's an approximation, and that's when you see the little squiggly equal sign. That means because it's approximately equal to 28 and 2600ths. Otherwise, we just leave it in terms of pi, which is a lot easier. If I asked you for an approximation, what would you do for an approximation here? I would just take 9 times 3. Pi is 3.14. That rounds to 3. What's 9 times 3? 27. So it's around 27. We came up with 28.26. That's fairly close. I have an idea of what that has a value of. So it's that many, don't forget the units, square centimeters. If you have that deep down desire need to calculate it, it's approximately, that's why we use that symbol right there, the double squiggly line. It's approximately equal to 28 and 2600ths. Question. The area of a circle is 25 square meters. Find the radius of the circle. That's a little bit difficult right there to work with right off the bat. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to put 25 pi square meters. How do you solve this problem? I'm going to give you, I'll give you 1 minute with a partner to go ahead and discuss how you would solve this problem. Okay, go. Jada has an answer. Jada's answer is 5 meters. I didn't see any work or anything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you get that, Jada? What they give us is area. They talk about area of a circle. First thing to do when you get to problems like this, how many felt overwhelmed with this type of question? My gosh, I don't even know where to start. Start with the formula. Area of a circle is equal to, what's the formula? Pi r squared. They give you what piece of information? They give you the area. So in place of the area right here, I'm going to replace it with what they give me. That's given information. 25 pi is equal to pi r squared. Pi is on both sides, so I can get rid of it. And that it would be a division process is what you would do, is divide both sides by pi. But you get 25 is equal to the radius squared. So what's your radius? How do you get rid of a square? What number squared is 25? 5. You would take the square root. So you end up with 5 meters. Now in your labeling, I just put 5m. What's the difference between miles and meters when you label your units? Not capitalized in lowercase. This is meters. If you just put an M, that's meters. If you actually want miles, it needs to be MI for miles. And you'll notice that with your unit multipliers, be careful of that particular part, because some of you struggle with that sometimes. All right, I have another figure up here for you. You have, what shapes do you see? Some of you see a triangle, a rectangle, and a semicircle. Does anybody see a trapezoid in a semicircle? Yeah. Try working through it as a trapezoid in a semicircle. It might make your calculation easier. Okay, I will give you, since it's a little bit bigger problem, I will give you 2 minutes to work through it. Go.